powerbomb from a ladder through a table, and he just stood right back up. Basically, Japanese strong style-esque of just no selling shit. And it's amazing how many people commented and have a comment on and have an opinion on that spot. Now, I never got to watch that match. However, I know a lot of people who have, and for the far majority of them, and most of them just watch a lot of wrestling. So I trust their opinion on what's good, what's not good. And the widespread opinion is that it was a great match. And I don't doubt it, because Janela and Rush have had other classics, especially over at CCW. And again, this one spot in particular, everybody seems to have an opinion on. So, in the spirit of being with the crowd, I'll express my opinion. My opinion is, I don't have an opinion one way or another, because I get where people come from, and where this is why wrestling is trash. This is why people don't respect wrestling anymore. This is why, yada yada yada, or like, oh, I'm done, this is bullshit. And through a couple of those people making the negative comments, I saw comments, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I'm going to paraphrase with it, basically saying a couple of points, and very valid points. This, wrestling has evolved. Look at King Ricochet and Will Ospreay, their match in Japan. Their one segment where I compare that to, or there's segments of back and forth, which I compare to what RVD and Jerry Lynn did back in the day, where I'm sure many people at that time had that same opinion, but it was different. So it was like, wow, this is really cool. And that's kind of how I felt now about that particular moment between Ospreay and Ricochet. Now, with Joey Janela and Lio Rush's moment, I feel that it's kind of the same thing. Now, I get the no selling, but, the one guy made a comment that the moment that exchange created was something that really defies wrestling. And again, I'm paraphrasing. Pro wrestling is performance art. I mean, it's sports entertainment, it's pro wrestling, it's whatever it is. But and it's dangerous, very dangerous. But like anything else, it's a performance art. And there's many different ways of expressing that art. And whether it be, and when I talk about art, you could talk about painting, you talk about music, whether you like it or you don't. People, men and women, all have different ways of expressing their artistic creativity. And this was an example of two men in the wrestling ring doing something, I guess, different, doing something where, yeah, it could have hurt them, it probably did, I don't know. But in that moment, and I'm just looking at, just a little clips of it, it just created such a moment. And I'm sure the buildup of the match, that was kind of the culmination of everything that they've been through in their prior matches and this particular match. So some of the people I've seen make comments, and some of them I'm friends with on Facebook and stuff, I almost view their comments as they wish they were in that spot, meaning they wish they were the ones being talked about in any way, shape, or form with wrestling, that they get attention. There's been a couple of people I looked at, around Twitter and all that, where it seems like they were wrestling, they were bigger at one time, or they're trying to do something with wrestling, and their way of thinking of it is different, and it almost sounds like a different form of jealousy of, well, I busted my ass for so long, and these assholes are getting the attention that I feel that I deserve. And there's a lot of that too. But let's keep in mind here, look at the talents that Joey Janela has been getting the opportunity to work with around the world. Okay? Around the United States more so, but, like world famous talent. I'll go down the list. Matt Riddle, Zack Sabre Jr., Colt Cabana, and the list goes on, and the list goes on and on. Marty Jannetty was another one. He's getting the opportunity to work with these talents because, and there's a reason for it. Because, number one, Joey Janela is a draw. Plain and simple, he is a draw. And these talents are working with him, and they're creating great matches. Adam Cole's another example. And I watched that full match. That was really good. And Lio Rush is technically a WWE contracted wrestler now. Although he hasn't made his debut yet. But he is a contracted WWE wrestler. And quite frankly, it's his send-off, and those two, I'm assuming, are friends, behind the scenes. They're putting on amazing matches that people talk about. And guess what? Whether you liked certain spots or not or whatever, you're talking about that match. Period. And that's kind of, Kurt Angle said it in his Hall of Fame speech best. Sometimes, a lot of people won't remember your whole body of work, which sucks. But people will remember the moments. And Joey Janela, between being mother effing bombed off of a building into a truck by Zandig, or moments like this with Lio Rush, and another moment with Lio Rush where he came from the ceiling crashing down through a ladder. Those are moments that people will remember Joey by. And, like, again, that incident with Lio Rush with the ceiling, through the ladder that was propped between the ring and the guardrail. Those are moments that will be associated with them. With Lio Rush now moving on to NXT, and maybe somewhere down the line Joey Janela gets his chance. I don't know that. But it's moments like this that will make people of, independent wrestling, fans, that they'll remember them by. So whether you like it or not, it has, and again, if you're one of those people against it, it has you talking. Positive or negative. And through that talking will result in other people watching it, and then maybe somebody else will like it. Your response one way or another is causing a chain reaction. Positive or negative. And again, moments like that are being talked about, and they're going to want to see what he does next, or what Lio Rush does next, or, you know what I mean? So, I get it from both sides, but my personal opinion, I think a lot of it's jealousy, a lot of it is old school traditionalists saying this makes no sense, and there are some people that are hypocritical, and they don't like this, but they liked the likes of RVD versus Jerry Lynn, or, Masato Tanaka, Mike Awesome, where that had no psychology really behind it whatsoever. You could tell me I'm wrong, but that's fine. Again, my opinion. And you're saying that this is wrong, because, everybody thinks that they know the answers to everything. And yes, there are right ways and wrong ways to do everything. But in a performance art like sports entertainment is, or pro wrestling, you're going to have different ways of expressing it. And these two expressed it differently. They're being talked about all over the place. Joey Janela is still getting bookings, and he's getting a lot of them pretty much where he's packed every weekend. And Lio Rush is now a NXT or WWE contracted wrestler who is being brought there because of stuff that he did, that's, bringing him to the dance. So whether it's, a hypocritical opinion, a jealous opinion, a closed-minded opinion, or an open-minded opinion, you're talking about it. And I'm talking about it. Whatever they were trying to do, it worked. It worked. And as far as I know, no real serious injuries occurred during that match. So, yeah, what they did was risky and everything. But then again, taking a hip toss is risky. Any bump could, result in paralysis or anything of that sort. So, they did what they were supposed to do. And it worked. It got him talking about Joey Janela, Lio Rush, CZW, NXT, WWE, pro wrestling. It got him talking about pro wrestling. And whether you like it or not, we want attention on pro wrestling. For us fans, for wanting to see the product get better and get it bigger. And other talents, you want to see different talents. Shit like this causes a chain reaction. So that's my opinion on that. And I also want to just, I don't want to say report because it's been all over the place, all over. Pro Wrestling Noah and Pride legend Yoshihiro Takayama is unfortunately paralyzed after a wrestling accident. And this is kind of where this is where I kind of tie in a little bit. Again, wrestling is for performance. Wrestling is entertainment. Wrestling is athleticism. It's everything and then some. But, for those who say it's fake, I mean, come on. What bullshit are you spewing through your mouth? There's nothing, yeah, we all know what it is, but there are risks involved. And for every, and that's why I respect, most pro wrestlers, because yeah, you get trained properly and you go through the whole thing. But I respect them more or less also because they're making their sacrifices to try and make a name for themselves in wrestling, but they're also making a sacrifice for their bodies. At any moment, an accident like this could happen. And at any moment, it could quite possibly be the last accident that they have. Because then, like Draws and like others, Takayama, they'll never get a chance to wrestle again. They'll never get a chance to lead a normal life again. And they did it because they love pro wrestling. And they did it for your entertainment. So, I get it. Everybody has a reason to shit on people and one thing or another. But before you really go making certain assumptions and everything, just remember that these men and women do take a risk in the ring for our entertainment. And whether we like them or hate them, whether they're a good guy or bad guy, we all at least have to respect them because of what they do in the wrestling ring. Again, for our entertainment. So, all right. So that will be it for us, for me today. And thank you all for tuning in. Congratulations to all the top 10 of the Indy Power Rankings for their placement this week. And tune in next week as I will bring you another edition of the Indy Power Rankings Singles Top 10. Join Travis tomorrow on the IPR Tag Team Top 5 as he reveals the top 5 tag teams in the week of pro wrestling. So go out, support your local independent wrestling. It's very important to do. You never know when the next star is going to be right in front of your face. And have yourselves a good rest of your week. See you all next week.